short-term gap in coverage. If you change jobs and it's going to be 3 months before you can be covered at your new job, this can be a very good plan for you. These plans are sold either online, directly through the companies that sell them. They can also be sold through licensed agents such as myself. I do not carry any short-term plans. The reason for that is the plans that I have don't carry a contract. You can keep them as long or as little as you want. Okay, but short-term plans, again, good for a short gap in coverage. Downside to short-term plans: if you think you're only going to need it 3 months, and you sign up for a 3-month term, something happens. Say you're diagnosed with asthma. Now you've decided, okay, now I need to renew this for another 3 months because I don't have the insurance I thought I was going to have. Guess what happens with that asthma? Not covered, because now it's a pre-existing condition and you're renewing that coverage, and they will drop that part of it. Okay, and you will not have coverage for that. So that's a big downside to short-term plans. How many of you know anybody that has been on a short-term plan? Okay. Third type of plan we're going to talk about is Medi-Share plans. I term them Medi-Shares for lack of a better word, because I know that's the brand name to those plans. Does anybody know anyone that's on a Medi-Share plan? Okay. Those plans can be very good for people that have ongoing medical issues, okay, to have those covered and don't want to be on a government plan or can't get on other types of coverage. They can also be good for people that just want to help out fellow members of those plans. Downside to those plans is if you listen closely to their advertisements, they will tell you this is not insurance. That statement will be in there. It was a long time before I realized that statement was in there because they really just blend it in very well. But if you listen to all their advertisements, it will say this is not insurance. So they do not have to cover all your claims, or any of them, for that matter. Okay? So that is something to be aware of if you go with a plan such as a Medi-Share type plan. Okay? Fourth type of plan that I want to talk about today: employer plans. How many people? There may be a lot of people here that are on spouses' employer plans, or know somebody that's on an employer plan. Okay? Employer plans also, if you're on a spouse's plan, what's good about an employer plan is that they will give the employer a discount, and the employer, or the employee rather, is not paying the entire cost of that plan. That discount, they may pay 50%, they may pay 90%, they may pay 100% of it for the employee. But when it comes to the spouse and other family members, it may be a reduced amount, or it may be nothing. How many of you that have the employer coverage or know somebody on one, know somebody that is paying $1,000 or more a month for the additional family members? You got one? Okay. That is not uncommon because, again, the employers do not offer discounts or as large a discount for the family members as they do the employee. It's a benefit for the employee. Okay. The good part about that is about those plans is they will cover pre-existing conditions generally after a short time up to a year, unless you've had previous coverage, which it could be covered right away. Okay, so that's a good part to those plans. But the downside can be the cost if you are not the employee. So that's the fourth type. Fifth type of plan is private market plans. Now these plans are subject to underwriting. These are good plans for people that are in generally good health. Just because you have a pre-existing condition, though, does not exclude you necessarily from a private market plan. If you've had asthma for a period of time, and you're on medication for that, it's under control. Underwriting's going to sign off on that. It's not going to be considered a pre-existing condition if it's listed on the application and approved by underwriting. Okay, they will do that in the vast majority of the cases for things like asthma sinus issues, that type of thing, and as well as others. But what they are looking for is that, yes, you may be on a medication, but you've been on it a period of time, and it's under control. You know that you've got it, and you're getting it taken care of, and you're being treated for it, okay? So just because you may have a medical condition doesn't exclude you from a private market plan. Private market plans can also be good for a lot of folks in these other 4 categories that we've talked about. If you're in a government plan and you're in generally good health, chances are you can get just as good, in some cases better coverage with a private market plan at a lower price, at a more affordable price, okay? Employer plans, again, if you're the family member and you're not getting that discount to be on that plan, you can generally get just as good or better coverage in a lot of cases at a more affordable price with a private market plan, okay? These are sold online and through licensed agents such as myself. A lot of information in a short period of time. What questions are there? Did I answer everybody's questions?
You were thorough.
Wow. Never had that happen before.
What sort of deductibles do you have?
Good question. And the private market plans have a wide range. You can have a deductible from $5,000 to $10,000, after which the plans kick in at anywhere from 60/40 to 80/20, and an out-of-pocket max between $2,000 and $10,000 after that. Okay, and those are the more traditional types of plans. There are also plans out there that offer first dollar benefits. $0 deductible, $0 copay. You get benefits on the first dollar you spend. Now the way those work is these plans are utilize the Cigna PPO network, which is one of the largest in the country. Never had an issue with a doctor or hospital not being in that network, at least not yet. I know that there are some that they are not associated with, but they are associated with most. So each doctor or hospital negotiates a discount with that PPO. So if you go to the doctor and they charge you $200 for an office visit, you do not pay them anything up front, okay? They're gonna bill that $200 to the insurance company. The insurance company is gonna say, okay, the PPO discount, each doctor negotiates differently, okay? But last year, the national average was 54%. So let's say this doctor negotiated a 50% discount. So you're gonna take that $200 rate and then say, okay, discount makes it $100. Now they're gonna apply your benefit. And that benefit, let's say it's a $75 benefit per office visit, okay? They'll apply that benefit of $75, you get a bill for $25, okay? So it can be very good to know what your doctor charges. If your doctor only charges $150 and has a 50% discount, then it's gonna be $75. Then that benefit of $75 is gonna be applied, you're gonna get a bill for $0, okay? Not uncommon, but it's very good to be aware of what your doctor or your hospital is charging, because they don't have to charge the same amount, and as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, there are wide ranges in pricing out there for not only office visits, but for hospital stays. But good question. What else? Yeah.
So you may or may not know this, but my understanding on those Medishare plans is if you're sick and have to go to the hospital or the doctor or whatever, you've got to pay their upfront fees, and then you get reimbursed with the Medishare. Is that correct?
No,
No?
I've been in Medishare for 13 years.
Okay, so that's not the case.
Not if you call the number and go through this process.
Okay.
If there's a number you call to let them know you're being admitted, then you don't.
Okay.
And there are different ones out there, so that may not be the case with the Medishare, it may be the case with others. I don't know, I'm not that familiar with them, but I do know that there's a wide range of different things out there that they, some have you do, some don't.
Is that it?
Y'all living coming out easy today.
I planned on being beaten up by the time I left here.
Well, he's left some business cards back there, and we'll also put it downstairs on the back cabinet for you guys if y'all have any questions. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer any of the questions that you guys might have. And again, go ahead. Carl?
Yeah. Most insurance programs, you have the limited time to be able to get into a plan. Are any of these plans that you were talking about this morning where you can go in at any time and
Yes.
look at getting into them? They're not limited to December 28th to January?
No, there is no enrollment period for the plans that I offer, none whatsoever. And a lot of times, if you're on an employer plan, there isn't a time for cancellation. I know that if you have to be added, there's a lot of times they make you have a life change, I think is what they call it, like a birth of a child or a divorce, that type of thing, before you can get on. But there's usually not a time that you can cancel. Okay, so, but before you cancel one, you want to make sure that you have another one. And we can set up, and that's the nice thing about these, we can, if we do an application today, I can set it to start as long as 45 days from now. So we can get you approved, so that you've got the peace of mind. Say you want it to start October 1st, that's within the 45 days, we can set it to start October 1st. There is no open enrollment type period. And again, there is no contract period either. Depending on the plan you choose, you'll have a rate guarantee from 12 to 15 months that rate will not change. But you don't have to keep it that long. You're not under a contract. If you only need it for 3 months, you can call and say, hey, I need to cancel this. And they'll say, no problem.
Through your business cards then, would there be a website that we can go to where we can look at the different types of plans, deductibles, and
There is not, because that would be an awful lot.
yeah.
Because you can set every type of plan there is up 30 different ways,
Yeah.
literally.
Okay.
But I do offer free quotes. I'd be glad to come to you. I also do online webinars where you can view my screen. We can go over the plans. We can set it up differently right there and get the best plan for
So
you.
it'd be best just to call in and
Yes, sir.
go over the different types of plans and costs.
Yes, that's probably the easiest.
Perfect.
Yeah, because if I tried to send you a file too, it would, I know it would crash my computer. I don't know how good yours is.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
Well, thank you so much, Brandon.
No
We
problem.
greatly appreciate it.
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Guys, give me a Alright, I think we've got one guest today. Becky or Lucky, do y'all want to introduce Carla?
Yeah, Lisa, I don't think you had a chance, I think you sat in a training session before, did you? So she wasn't part of a previous Tuesday sales meeting, but Carla Burton, right here in front row, I'd like to introduce as a person that's going to be joining us. She's going through the process, she's already passed PSI. She's had roughly 11 years, as I recall, as a teacher at Keeson Lane, wasn't it?
Right.
And has that background, and I think she fits in perfectly in our culture. After the meeting, if you have a chance to meet Carla, to show her initiative and gives an opportunity to remind people, we really encourage people to shadow others, particularly as you're learning, or even as an active person if you want to get other ideas. So she was there at an open house this weekend, along with Jen Moss, who's not here today, as a newer person getting ideas. Another thing to stress is Denise Milner has conducted that open house for me and Becky, past client of mine, and thank you for doing that. And she, the benefit of anybody, whether or not you're already active licensed or after you've been here for several months or even a year, get other people's ideas on how to conduct an open house. There's no black and white right answer. Everybody has their own little techniques, processes. So I want to take a minute just to explain and reinforce and encourage. Take advantage. One of the reasons why our size benefits people is if you have a real small office, you don't get those opportunities to do open houses. You don't get those opportunities to help other agents who represent builders and they have several listings. They'd love to have you volunteer to help them. And also the opportunity to do, we had 2 agents yesterday that I notified that we were having a home inspection and invited them to attend if they wanted additional experience and how an agent's role is with a buyer and an inspector, and recommended a summary. So you were there and Jen Moss was there, getting ideas how Premier Home Inspection did it with a house under contract. So the bottom line is each of you keep those things in mind. And my suggestion is don't just rely upon Lambie's page, because not everybody checks it in a timely fashion. Hey, I'd like to let anybody know that's would like to have an open house. I'm volunteering, let me know. If you don't hear, go ahead and take the initiative. I would suggest one of the many values of attending Tuesday meetings, at the end, we go around to say who's got new listings and emphasize highlights, is that should be a trigger to go ahead and see any new listing that you see on the listing sheet. If you're interested, go ahead and go up to that listing agent and say, hey, I know you've taken it, you may be planning on doing your own open houses, let's say, but if you have any interest in having somebody doing it, I'd like to make sure you're aware that I am. And conversely, any step of the process. It could be that pending, under the pending category, if you need additional bolstering and being a shadowing in the closing process, hey, would you mind if your client is okay with authorizing me to be in the corner kind of observing? So does that make sense? Because again, I came across maybe some confusion that we don't, quote, quote, encourage shadowing and so forth. Oh, just the opposite. Take advantage of these opportunities. Okay, so welcome, Carl.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna take just a minute of your time to go over the upcoming events. Tomorrow, I'm gonna be teaching a contract now class. We spend so much time on teaching you guys how to write the contracts, then you don't know what to do afterwards. So I spent a lot of time preparing for this class, so it'd be great for some of the newer agents to please come to this. It's not part of your fast track, but it will be very enlightening to you, because it seems like I have a lot of you guys that'll come to me and be like, okay, now what happens next? What do I do after the steps? So I'm gonna start incorporating this contract now what class. So that'll be tomorrow from about 9 to 12. So you can bring your laptops or you don't have to. I'll put the contract up there on the board, but I'm gonna go over every step that happens after you have a binding agreement, okay? Then Thursday, the 22nd, Annette's gonna be doing her listing and buyer presentation and database. This is a fast track class, so if you have not attended this as part of your fast track class, you'll need to do so Thursday. Then September 5th, we're gonna have a contracts class. That'll be from about 9 to 11:30. And then on September 19th, Annette will do another listing of our presentation and database. And the reason being that I'm getting a lot of new agents that are coming in pretty much weekly. So I gotta kind of keep these classes going so they don't get so far behind. The reason why we do fast track, and that it's mandatory that you attend 4 fast track trainings, which is the contracts class, either the dot loop or the Facebook, the listing of our presentation, the contract writing, is because we want you prepared before you kind of get out there and start trying to sell, and also before you can sign up for what we consider floor duty. And floor duty is where you sign up in 2-hour increments and come in and answer any incoming phone calls that come in about a listing. And then they're not asking for a specific agent, they're just saying, hey, I saw the house listed on 123 Main Street, I want more information. So that goes out to the floor duty person. So that's why we have these fast track classes, and it seems they're kind of back to back right now, but I'm trying to get everybody squeezed in. And then September 26th is another Facebook presentation from Greg. He is great on this. So I have always encouraged you guys, please do not use your personal page for business. Create a business page and then post all of your business from your business page, okay? So he's gonna teach you guys how to set that up and kind of how to run your Facebook business page. And then we're still working on the tailgate party for October 5th. It will start at 11 a.m. We'll meet at the Greenland parking lot, and then we'll have a barbecue lunch. And then I believe kickoff starts at 2:30, but the closer we get to it, the more information that we'll have on that. Does anybody have any questions? Everybody's good? All right.
everybody awake this morning?
I'll
Well, that's it for today. Let's go.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Not so fast. Control your guys.
Some people are uncontrollable.
A few things before we start. A few things. The MTAR calendar, if you did not bother to open your newsletter for MTAR, a lot of stuff going on that are available for continuing education courses this week. Tomorrow, transaction desk, 5 hours, continuing education, $50 from 9 to 3. Thursday, 10 to 12, home maintenance tips. Good practical information right there that we all could use. $25 for 2 hours continuing education. From 1 to 3 tomorrow, indoor air quality tips, 2 hours, $25, or $40 for the 2 of those courses tomorrow. So if you need to pick up some hours real quick, they probably still have openings in those. And then Friday, 9 to 1, success begins with a C. 4 hours continuing education. That sounds like my college grades, you know. C. Let's see. Brad, do you have the information on the Harbor Grill RPAC thing? Are you on the RPAC committee?
I am, but I don't have any.
Okay, we'll get more out on that.
Where do you want it done?
It is, well, I just looked on here, September 23rd, Harbor Grill, is what they're calling it. It's a Fate Sanders Boat Dock, event in Smyrna from 5 to 7. It is one of the, RPAC fundraisers, $25 investment. Anything else on that, Chuck?
That's pretty much it. It's
That's-
the same place it was last year.
Mark your calendars, it's a lot of fun, I'm sure. And then the, 14th annual golf tournament, the one they have at, Willowbrook in Manchester, is September 26th, for any of y'all interested in getting a team together to do that. It's coming up. Let me go over our sales sheet here. 11 new listings this last week. 3 agents had 2 new listings. Ashley, Hope, and Stephanie all had 2 new listings. Then 1 each for Amanda, April, Chase, Hope, Angela, and Tori, all with new listings. Good strong week once again on pending sales. We sold 29 houses this last week, led by Greg with 4. Greg, good little week there, young man. Greg, you had a big auction, didn't you?
Big auction Saturday.
Tell us about
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
it. Tell us about
We sold a house, 6 acres, and lots of personal property. The house was appraised at $260,000 about a month ago. It brought $293,500. That's the second one in a row. It's brought $30,000 more than the appraisal price. So auctions are hot right now. We sold $12,500 worth of personal properties. I had about 89 registered bidders there, which probably about 175 to 200 people on site. So we had a great day, busy day.
it. Don't forget, auctions sometimes is really a very good alternative for your sellers to consider. And if you yourself are not familiar with the process of auctions and how it all works, give Greg a call. He's our chief auctioneer, and he will certainly be glad to meet with you and your sellers to see if he thinks it's a good fit for you. And he certainly won't advise it if he doesn't think it's something that he thinks will do well. He doesn't want to waste his time on going out here and doing an auction that's not going to sell. So it's too much work involved.
How much did we bring you, an auction, how much did we get?
Half, whatever it is, whatever we list, that's half the percentage. It's 50-50 split.
Okay,
It's just like you selling your house with ABC Realty out there selling.
so it's like,
You
if
get the
it's
seller
6%,
side, buyer side, yeah, you get 3, I get 3.
But it's cash buyers.
Yes. A lot of times we get buyers, let me tell you the advantage of, the advantage of the auctions, we get a lot stronger buyer than your seller. You know, in the purchase and sale agreements, the contracts are not written for the sellers. You know, earnest money can be refunded, reasonable thing comes up, they get earnest money back. If the seller wants to fight for it, they have to go get it quicker. Chances of getting it that are pretty slim. At auction, we get a stronger bidder, we get a stronger down payment, we're gonna take probably a minimum $10,000 down. Our buyer's gonna close on it before 30 days, it's not contingent on financing, appraisal, inspection, so when they buy it at auction, they're closing on it before 30 days. If they don't close, they don't have a pocket at $10,000, that goes to the seller. It's a lot better deal for the seller.
Everybody said, it's not contingent upon appraisal, it's not contingent upon inspections. You know, if they want any inspections done, they'd have to get it done before the auction.
Yes.
Because when the hammer falls, it's sold.
Is there a minimum that it has to, can it go?
You can put a reserve on it, the seller can, now if the reserve's too high, I won't take it, but if they're reasonable with the reserve, I don't mind doing reserve auctions, we do quite a few of them.
Okay.
Greg, can we get you to do an auction class to
Yes.
refresh some? It's been a while since you've done one before.
He's done it in the past.
Yeah, but it's been a while.
We can do that, Greg.
Because I'm actually signing one up today, that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, about 2,300 square foot house in Cannon County. That they just wanna move it quick, they don't wanna deal with inspections and things like that, probably not much wrong with the house, they wanna go, because they're going to Texas. And when I explained the process about not being able to cancel the contract, they're explaining back, they like that.
One thing that's really good on auctions is when you are dealing with an estate. That's exceptionally good, especially if you have numerous heirs that are all gonna have to be involved. The state may not want to fool with, doing a whole bunch of repairs on the house or property, fooling with all the inspections, getting all the heirs to agree to do everything. A lot of times, they'll say, let's auction the thing. And the biggest thing on the auction you have to remember is, when you're on the seller side, you're saying, I think this house is worth, I'm gonna pull a figure out there, 300,000, Greg looks at it, and based on his experience, which is pretty dadgum good, it's been our top agent for the last 2 years, if he doesn't think it's gonna bring what they're expecting for it, he will not take it. Okay. Now, if they're flexible and willing to make, he thinks price range 250 to 300, on an average day, we're gonna try to get as much as we can for it, but if they're stuck on 300, he didn't know that they'll take it, he's not gonna waste his time going out there or theirs. Cause they will have expenses they'll have to pay for advertising and that type of thing for the sale. Yes, Renee?
So if it doesn't meet the reserve, what does the?
The seller's just responsible for the advertising. And that's different from county to county. Here in Murfreesboro, you get about $900. Go outside.
Yeah, that figure's agreed upon on the front end.
Yes.
And by the way, to interject also, that is something that if you are a possible traditional listing agent, and the best option is to go to auction for either estate, as Bob points out, or let's say you try to do a CMA, it's in a rural area, you can't really get good comps. That might be a property that Greg gets involved and say, hey, you might bring this at auction, or unique properties are good to auction. But if the seller chooses to go to auction and it does not meet that reserve that you're talking about, then on a traditional listing, who pays for the marketing if you took it as a traditional listing, didn't sell during the listing period? We do, right? Whereas the seller does an agreed upon budget, so that's another advantage. So definitely consider that. The example that Bob had said 2 years ago, I had 2 estate sales. And I said, you're gonna have a lot of calls at this price range, but the deceased had not kept up the property. I said, this house is gonna be killed by licensed home inspectors. Do you have the wherewithal to do the anticipated required repairs? They said no. They were all 85 to 92 years old. So selling as is, whereas with no express implied warranties was the best option. And that is an example where it doesn't have to be just land that sometimes goes well above what you'd anticipate, but also house. I mean, each of those instances brought 50 to 55,000 more than, what was expected.
Anybody was familiar with the Doolittle Road property up in Woodbury here a few months ago? We had 7 acres of her listed. We had it listed at $79,900. The first third day on the market, the lady got an offer of $79,900 with 3,000 closing. She countered it. The buyer walked. It sat there for 3 more months, no other offers except for a $50,000 offer. She said, let's take it to auction. I said, well, what do you want the reserve to be? She said, let's do $62,500. I was a little hesitant, but I said, okay, I thought we might could get that. We put it online before the sale. We had $62,500 bid when we got there today, so we were absolute from that point on. The 2 buyers, one that did it online, showed up, they bid it up to $107,500. That's the highest sale makers that sold in Woodbury with nothing on it.
Wow. I also add,
$105 an acre.
I also add something for it, is some of you, a seller prospect may say, Well, thanks for giving me that option to traditional auction. Tell you what, I'd rather have you go ahead and put up your sign for 6 months, and if it doesn't sell, we'll take it to auction. You want to think in terms of the reverse.
Yeah.
Bidders going to auction are not dumb. They know if a property's been listed at a certain price, the market rejected it, they're not gonna discuss. So are they likely gonna
Yep.
even come close? No.
I wouldn't dream that somebody would brought
Right.
something, that just shocked
Yeah.
me.
So the bottom line is recommend the auction first, and hopefully the unlikely event
What's happening right now?
that it
what
didn't
I'm seeing,
sell at auction
is
then.
If you put it up for auction, it's creating a sense of urgency for buyers, because they know that property, they can't let it come on the market and sit there and wait for it to come down on price, it's gonna sell this day. If they're interested, they're going to have to be there. And it creates a sense of urgency in the buyers, and I think that's what's driving it right now, because the demand is so high for properties, there's not much coming on the market, and when the market's flooded, like it was during the recession, Bob can tell you, it's stuck. I mean, you couldn't sell anything anywhere with anything, but now, hey guys, I've heard auction was listed, to be honest with you, I haven't.
So let's say you have an auction, you go to auction with it, it's been on the market a while, you go to auction with it, and you still, that doesn't mean it's reserved. When you go back and put it back on the market, you think that looks bad on that?
It's already bad. If it's been on the market 6 months, you auction it, don't sell it, it's already bad. You're in bad shape, and that's a price
Yeah.
issue. And that-
Most of your buyers are not gonna realize that, though.
No, it's a price issue, definitely. They got it too high.
You know.
I might also say that, and I'm not related to Greg, thank God, no, but I'm gonna give him a compliment, because I truly mean it, is if you've got acreage, land oftentimes is great at auction, but he is one of the best I've seen as far as help determining options and also the highest and best use. And he can actually envision, with surveys or whatever, and surveyor contacts he's got can help decide whether or not the land is divisible. You know, so, and like I said, take advantage of, and that's another advantage here of having an in-house auction group that does not require you to use, but you've got another resource, another options. And he's a quick step away or a phone call away to give you the additional advice to have you advise your clientele.
And Isaac's our newest fan as of Saturday.
Oh, okay.
What?
Have to go and see Greg in action.
Okay.
I know, I'll try it. If you've not seen him doing it, you don't understand what's going on. He works hard. I work so tired, you know. So please go and see Greg in one of these auctions. Once you see it, you will like it. That's what I did, and I love it.
And you had a good time Saturday.
Take me down to work too.
On the other side, if you got a strong buyer, just don't rule out auctions, because I have a strong buyer that's looking for land. We went to an auction, and a lot of times they'll pay a broker participation. Now, I'm not a full three, but they'll pay that. But I took a client to an auction, he didn't get the winning bid, but I picked up a listing lead from another customer while I was there. So
I bet you wore an exit shirt, didn't you?
I absolutely did.
Tell them what you had to do to assure that you paid if your buyer was to be the successful bidder.
Most of the time, you'll go online when you find one. Usually it's about 48 hours prior to the auction there. There's a form, a referral form, that you have to fill out and email to the auctioneer.
And you must attend the auction with the buyer.
And you have to attend it. And they also, the one I was at, they announced the agents that were there with their clients. So.
That's a courtesy thing, just like they should announce, you know, any realtors or any other auctioneers that are there, they should recognize them, that's a traditional courtesy deal. But remember, if you do have a buyer and you're afraid they may go to an auction or something, you need to find out, you know, number one, if you have a buyer representation agreement, let them know they're subject to that. If they go to an auction, you need to call the auctioneer and say, I have a buyer that might be attending your auction or will be attending your auction. Do you do broker participation? And broker participation is offering you as a buyer's agent some fee. You know, it's usually a little less than what you get on a normal deal. But you would need to make sure that you filled out their form or did whatever they require you to do to register that buyer as your client, and in agreement, if they do get the winning bid, how much they're going to pay you. It's for the auctioneer's protection to do that, because, you know, if you're the auctioneer out there doing a property and you have a guy that comes up there with the winning bid, and then an agent runs up, that's my customer right there, they came by at 5 through me. Sorry, that doesn't happen.
And Bob also had to exclude realtors in their immediate family, because I had husbands that provided their wives from real estate agencies, won't get your wives paid for doing nothing.
Yeah.
So I had to exclude realtors in their immediate family from the broker participation, provide for yourself, on investment properties and things like that.
Mr. Thomas.
How much time do you want to advertise before you have the auction from the time you get the property advertising?
Minimum 3 weeks advertising. Minimum 3 weeks.
And that varies with the property and a lot of factors, time of year and everything. Any other questions on the auction, Greg? If you will look at your calendar and get with Gina and maybe pick some day and let's do an auction class.
We'll get a class in September there, we'll try to line some up.
We'll get Greg to cry a sale here, we'll get him sell a coffee cup or something here tonight. Auctions are a lot of fun. I got my license back in about 79 and did a lot of auctions over the years. Got too old to do them now. But, Greg does a great job. Okay, let me finish off with the sales sheet. Anyway, 4 pendings for Greg. We have 4 agents with 2 pendings each, Amanda, Chip, Ashley, and Stephanie. And then 1 each for Amber, April, Bob Gomia, Kathy Hughes, Christina, Cortland, Hope, Jim McDermott, Lori, Max, Michael, Brian, Chris, Michelle, Priscilla, Samantha, and Tori, all with pendings turned in last week. On the closing side, 16 closings. We had 2 agents with 2 each, Amber and April. The 1 each for Becky, Bob Gomia, Denise, Fred, Lori, Max, Renee, Bianca, Paige, and Tony, all with closings last week.
Lori's first closing.
Lori's first closing. Where's Samantha?
I had a closing last week.
What's your name?
When did it close, Juanita?
It's coming next week,
When did it close?
Friday,
That's why. Because if it's on a Friday, it goes on the
following week.
following week, so it'll be on next week.
And Samantha will have her first for the next week if everything goes well on the 2, so congratulations. Okay, birthdays. Thursday, Owen has a birthday, Anthony on Friday, and then Monday, our own sweet Juanita. So, and she's excited about this one because
Yes, I'm going to be full retirement age. I can make as much money after that as I want, and I do not have to pay Social Security back anymore.
that's why she's been slacking off. So Greg, Amber, y'all look out. So congratulations and a premature happy birthday to everybody. Getting on to our training right now. How many of y'all who have been in the business for a few years have seen contracts or offers come in on one of your listings that is totally messed up? When you, as soon as you pick it up, what's the first thing you do with an offer?
Look for the price.
Yeah, you get the offer and you start reading it, right?
Look for the price first thing.
I've had this house listed for a year and a half, it's the first offer I've got from them. So, but you start looking at it, and then all of a sudden you start seeing things that they didn't fill in, they didn't state properly, they didn't do this or did something else, or they added crazy stuff on there, and special stipulations like subject to the buyer being satisfied with a home inspection. Well, you put that in there, it's already covered, you know? So there's all kinds of stuff that you see with offers. Well, that's one thing fun about my job is I get to see new stuff all the time. And Becky brought me an offer yesterday that came in from an EXP agent. An EXP agent. It was the worst written contracts I have seen in many years. And Lucky wanted to talk about it a little bit. I was so impressed with this contract. I even sent it to Kathy Jones, my buddy over at Parks Realty, and she's going to share it with her sales meeting this morning as well. So.
But the first thing he said, was it one of our agents?
Yeah.
Thank God it was not.
No.
It was getting ready to be one of our ex-agents. Lucky, why don't you Why don't you hit the highlights?
Yeah, I want to go ahead and give you the overview and why, and emphasize some training tips, opportunities, things to be mindful of. A real life experience. Yeah, it's very unusual. Look, the backdrop is this is a listing of ours on in Savannah Ridge, and an open house is scheduled at 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. How many times have you heard us recommend, please don't assume the agent on the other side is knowledgeable,
Competent.
competent, even if they're experienced. You could have some high sales producers who I would not give a nickel to under the auspices of, is that person a good realtor or versus a person who has 5 or 7 closings a year. You actually have a stronger realtor here versus 15 years. So case in point is our listing, open house scheduled, and the first thing that gives rise to is I had an appointment in Franklin, my wife was with me. She opted to go ahead and have us stop by. And here's another good example. Janice Milner volunteered to do this open house for us, and she was there, and I got there about 2:30. What I saw was 2 agents shadowing, Jim Moss and Carla, thank you for doing that. Janice, thank you for doing the open house. It was a very busy open house. Why? The first thing I got hit with when I opened up the door was a buyer's agent sitting on the den couch with the buyer on the opposite side of the den. We're going to introduce real quick. You have an access code. We run around an offer real quick. And I got to tell you, in all my years in real estate, I've never had an agent who's elected to prepare an offer during a busy open house. So that's the first thing. What we recommend, don't do something like that. I don't care how aggressive the buyer would be to the agent, expressing interest, go ahead and move them like that, because you're going to have that. What would you want to do? As a professional, yeah, go outside, go to Starbucks. But so that's the first tip. This really happened. So we got the wireless access code. In the background was overheard that there was yelling, yeah. It's like the family members of the agent, so excited about their agent family members going to write an offer on the spot. Well, it turns out this agent, I could tell that she had some degree of experience because she had some HOA insightful question, I suppose. And then it was corroborated by our anticipation that she had probably 15 years, at least on the license number. So what happens next? Well, they're on their laptop, and then they later submit an offer. Now, what I do is I got notice through Showing Time. If you're a listing agent, we recommend that you get you ask Showing Time to send you a acknowledgement that whenever your seller has approved a showing, you can keep track of who's showing what when. And there was a showing approved for $345 by another agent. And what did I do? I called that agent who to make sure that he knew that Showing Time and let him know that your showing is going to be, it's okay to show. Seller approved it, but there's going to be an open house there. Now, how many times have we been surprised of that same situation? So out of professional courtesy, so I called the guy, and he appreciated knowing that. He had subsequently moved the showing appointment and was approved by our seller for 5 o'clock. He asked me open-ended questions, which is good. We encourage you to ask open-ended questions. Hey, Lucky, is the house still available? You know, my buyer's going to write an offer. I'm pretty sure, but they wrote an offer in Savannah Ridge. It was declined. Really confident they will. I said, no, it's available. Glad you're showing it, and hope they're interested in prepare an offer. So that was the end of it, right? And then the next step that happened was, let's see, the buyer's agent. Let's see, this is buyer number 1 agent. Presented the offer. Sat on the couch. Yeah, the couch agent, right? And first of all, submitted through Dolly, which is fine. But what she failed to do, which we encourage all of you to do, Bob does the same thing, Gina and so forth, is help sell, who the buyer is, what their strengths are, and not to assume the other agent on their side really knows how to depict what the strengths are for the seller's consideration. So that was something that was not done as well. But what really happened is when let's see. Oh, there was a comment. Another drawback of the agent preparing an offer during an open house with the buyer, it was overheard. Janice, tell me if I'm wrong. Somebody overheard that buyer is saying that, there may be a problem with successive closings. Now, what is the inference? What's the first thing that we hear? What do we think of? How sale consumed, it's gonna be a successive, is that gonna be an issue? Well, when this offer was presented, this is the unbelievable offer, and by the way, this is not the first time. This is the second time the offer came in without a purchase price even in the offer.
Oh my God.
Years ago, it happened at Work Trace, and I presented it back to my seller, and it was a friend who was actually a teacher, part-time realtor, and I called the guy back. I said, "Thank you," and Chuck, the seller, really appreciates your offer, but Chuck doesn't know what to review and respond to because there's no purchase price. Well, the same thing happened here. First mistake, right? So don't be so in a hurry. You've got to slow down, get some details. Isn't that a substantive? Minor detail. But again, this is not the first time this has happened to me, so that's a big mistake. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Well, Max, on that point, the other thing that's glaringly mistaken, omitted, was all the many blanks. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but for example, the instrument number was left blank. There is none in this particular Rutherford County, but there was blank on the seller name. For years, we were taught not to go ahead and put the seller's name working with the buyer. Why? Because many times the tax record does not have to reflect it on a day-to-day change basis. However, what's happening today? A lot of underwriters are kicking back your fully executable purchase and sale agreement to require an addendum to fill in those blanks. Is that not right? So now we're teaching to go ahead and put in the MLS seller's name or the tax record name. If it has to be changed, there's less likelihood an addendum still may be required. But going down, there was a trampoline. Now, what do you know? What do we teach on personal property like that?
Bill sale.
Yeah, so that needed to be clarified. Now, that's not an egregious mistake. I'm just going through real quickly. Let's see, the line 157, well, 155 is just something we need to clarify with the seller. This is where the earnest money was to be held by the buyer's side title company. Now, there's nothing unlawful with that, but as a listed agent or broker, we're going to advise the seller. There's pros and cons. Bob has pointed this out. I'm sure Gina and so forth, I do. The downside is the title company is not governed by the rules, with real estate brokerages, 21 days to submit to a court of interpleader. In the event there's a dispute.
Title companies are bound by that?
No, not the same guideline of 21 days. So you have a little more, in fact, we discussed that with the seller. So are you okay with some degree of added risk, I suppose? In this case, let me go ahead and move on. Line 157. Here, get this. $10,000 was part of the written offer. And then in a subsequent conversation, one of the things about clarifying the purchase price, oh no, I mean, you went through a few of the salient points on the offer to the agent. $10,000, no, that should be $1,000.
I mean, I was called to clarify some things, and if I hadn't have gone over that, we would have just assumed it was $10,000 because they drew an 80% loan, and that's doable. I've had an investor put $20,000 down, So if I hadn't gone over that, and we have sent our counter, if that accepted, then her client would have been bound to put $10,000 down.
The bottom line is, it could not have been mentioned, and what she's saying is, Dan, can you imagine the liability that agent and the brokerage where she's affiliated have by making that mistake? If her buyer could not perform, did not have $10,000, only had $1,000, it may be cause for default, and is the risk to that buyer with the agent making a mistake, is it just losing earnest money potentially? No. What's the default paragraph 12 call for? The seller can actually take action, not only keep the earnest money, but sue for performance. And then do you think that's a wide open complaint and lawsuit potential for the firm and the agent not exercising reasonable skill and care and fiduciary responsibility to their client? Wow, big mistake. So we actually did her a favor. So subsequently that was changed. And then going on, the home protection plan, she had it reversed. She said home protection plan and AHW to pay $510, and the provider is the seller. Well, she meant that, it should be reversed on the line items, so just a cluster, you know what, but then paragraph, no, you didn't hear me say that, no. Paragraph 17, and here we have, just for further clarification of the offer with the agent is, when we asked, tell us more about your buyer. Is this a pre-approved buyer? If so, there was nothing attached in paragraph 17 exhibits, right? And she said, yeah, it's a pre-approved buyer. Well, at this point, it's just flapping gums. There's nothing attached. Again, not good practices for an agent standpoint to represent their client, and also the effect on our seller. So you see that whole, now buyer number 2, let me share with some highlights there. Buyer number 2 is the one that had 3:45 p.m. showing, was moved to 5 o'clock outside of the open house. And during the first conversation, he appreciated me to let him get a heads up. And he asked me, have there already been any offers? I said no. And I hope, he said my buyer's going to write an offer. Because again, they tried another house and got turned down. They want that subdivision. I said, that sounds great. Really encouraged. This is not a financially distressed reason for selling my seller, but they have a house under contract they want to protect. So there is some desire to go ahead and try to get this closed as soon as practicable. So all was good at that point. And then the buyer agent asked me some open-ended questions, which is fine, and then asked me, what is your seller asking, what expecting? And I said, well, I can't, I'm not authorized to disclose that. Again, you get that type of question. It's a fair question to ask, but I can't really answer that, to be honest with you. And then what happened? When we got the buyer's agent, buyer number 1, we got the offer, came in probably 6 o'clock. We actually received it at 6:30 p.m. for buyer number 1, the one that didn't have a purchase price. So prior to that, I said to our sellers, what I'd like to do is go ahead and let this other showing agent aware that we have an offer, because he sounded like his buyer was really interested, and out of professional courtesy, to let him know that he still has an opportunity, if his buyer is interested, to present a competing offer, right? And so that is what was well received. And about 30 minutes later, we got a written offer. Now that offer was also deficient in that it, let's see, first thing, remember when the other tipper said, put your seller in the shoes of the buyer, buyer in the shoes of the seller. How will they react to this repair request or this offer, whatever? It really helps to sensitize people. This buyer had said the offer expiration was 10 p.m., 3.5 hours later, Sunday night. After the seller was out of the out of her home house for the open house, and didn't get back right at. So a crunch time, and the seller did feel like this. So number one, that's not a great thing. Although sometimes our buyers, we as agents have to comply, but we try to counsel. Hey, if you were the seller, you got an offer like this, you gave that amount of time, how would you feel? Well, how would you present that way? If a seller's, if the buyer's going to be that unreasonable, if I agree to their terms, we have a contract, what does the same person would be like, from contract to closing to deal with? Home inspection, repair request. So that's the first thing. On line, let's see. Now, seller concessions, this is an offer that came in with seller concessions. And the line 144, what have you heard? Gina, Bob, myself, others strongly indicate to you what's one of the most litigious areas of a dispute over purchase sale agreements, when there's lack of clarity, when you have ambiguity or conflicting language, and it says seller paid title expenses, and you go back to paragraph 18, special stipulations, seller paid X dollars toward buyer's closing costs and prepaids. Then when the title company gets that bound contract, they know with certainty what the intent of the parties is that title expenses included as part of the seller paid allowance amount that you see in special stipulations, or is it up and above? So then you have and that's what this needed to clarify. And also the inspection period and resolution period was blank. So obviously that's a critical factor too. And In this case, they ultimately waived their right for inspection. But then when we presented to the seller saying, there are some lenders, how many of you had the situation where some bankers or mortgage brokers doing a loan for, providing a loan for a buyer, even if the buyer and the seller have agreed to waive inspections? Have you seen instances where sometimes the underwriter dictates to the buyer or somebody to get an inspection? Why do they do that? To protect their own interests, right? The investors provide the mortgage monies. How many of you had, because I've seen a few times in recent times about when the recession hit, banks are getting really conservative on that kind of matter. So I think it's wrong, and when you decide who to work with and recommend on mortgage lenders, you want to make sure that even though your loan originator is really highly qualified, sometimes they're in an organization where they're hamstrung, and a nameless, faceless underwriter issues these victims, thou shall get an inspector, somebody's going to have to pay for it before we will approve a loan. In spite of the buyer and seller okay with it. So how many of you had, because I've seen that happen. Hey, Mom. Okay, moving on. So that was blank. Offer, we talked about offer expiration. Further, they asked, how does their offer number 2 compare with offer number 1? I said, I'm not authorized to disclose that. It's fair to ask. Open-ended questions are fair to ask. I said, most often, hey, that's deemed confidential by my client. I'm sorry, I can't disclose that. Now, that's not talking about a material defect which must be disclosed, structure, whatever, but no. And then I further said to him, and this was prompted a movement on their end, I said, well, what you're asking us to present to the seller is your buyer offered X dollars ultimately on purchase price, but that's not the true value of that offer to the seller. Because you look at special stipulations, and in this case, it was all buyer closing costs. They didn't add prepaid. You all know what prepaids are, is tax and insurance collection too. And then so that, I said, really, Mr. Agent, when we present your buyer's offer to the seller, they're not going to make a decision on this purchase price. This is the net value of your offer. It was 10 or 12,000 less than. And this guy, we think, was probably about 1 year in business. And so I think that caused him to about 30 minutes later call me back. And he said, your seller is not going to be asked to pay 3% toward buyer closing costs, it'll be 2%. And I said, well, that's great. That may or may not be the impetus to cause our seller to go with yours. However, this is just verbal at this point. I strongly recommend you get this in writing for consideration. I said, I'm not going to call you one that's likely to renege on this verbal, 2% only requirement for seller to pay closing costs versus 3 as submitted in writing. But I said, that's really just flapping gums. I strongly recommend it in writing so that my seller can properly review. Because I, as an advisor to the seller, am doing what? You're in our shoes. We're going to say, hey, if you accept that based upon this verbal 2%, that buyer can renege. And then what happens if you think you don't discover that until way after the bound contract? By that point, you may have lost this other bona fide buyer that you didn't work because you thought this was a better deal. And then you don't have anything legally enforceable. And I said to the agent who submitted this, I said, I'm not going to condescend to you, and I'm not your broker. You check your other side, but I strongly recommend getting it in writing for consideration for that reason. 30 minutes later, I get a text. And the buyer's agent, the text said, and this is a perfect example of what could happen because it actually happened in this case. The text came back not at 2% to confirm that, or in writing. It came back 2.5%.
It went up?
Yeah. It was like a moving target. And get this. And this is how it was worded. 2% for seller. No other clarification. Goes to 2.5% to the seller. And then he said, agent is paying $1,000. Well, what? So what I did is I called him back. I said, I need some clarification on this. And I said, well, going from 2%, 3% to 2%, not 2.5%, it just confirmed what I told you 30 minutes ago could happen. And, he said, yeah, I did, and, we'll get you that paperwork in the morning. Well, he didn't even think about the fact that the offer expired at 10 p.m. that night. Okay. And then, secondly, I said, what is this $1,000? Oh, yeah, I'm paying $1,000 to the buyer. I said, really? And I said, out of curiosity, is it being disclosed on the closing document? He hesitated, what seemed like 3 minutes. It was probably 20 seconds. And then he said, well, yeah, it's gonna be disclosed. I've done it with this lender several times in the past. Well, I don't believe the guy. But after that hesitation, usually there's some. So at this point in time, what could happen? Maybe, it's got to be disclosed, potentially, but really more, it could be a kickback to, maybe he got this buyer as a lead from the title company or lender, and that's a RESPA violation, right? And if it was is this a potential loan fraud? Do investors have a right to know, why is disclosure so important on a closing document? Whenever they exchange the monies, the investor needs to know if the buyer has been approved on these debt ratios and this amount of down payment that they have and other things. Remember that example years ago, I attended the seminar from a guy who was a licensed real estate agent, and he doubled with being a loan originator. He had dealt with a buyer for many times who was an investor, and that investor he trusted, say, whoever the seminar leader's name was, don't put that $500 exchange on, at that time, the HUD-1, which is now what, the CD, was a document. And that's what he did. He didn't think anything of it. A year and a half later, I think he said, he also had ownership in a cocktail lounge, and he was in this bar, and in walks, black suited, three-piece suited, two gentlemen, tied on, dressed to the hilt. They open up, FBI, badges, true story. Are you who you are? Show me your ID. He was. They put him in handcuffs, walked him out, and ultimately court ruled that he was in violation of loan fraud over a $500 issue that was not reflected on the HUD-1 statement. He said he was actually guilty of 3 years, of which he served a year and a half in jail. And hence, that guy's probably making big bucks at that time by doing training seminars to avoid the importance of it. So bottom line, I don't know if this was true, but it raised the red flags, right? In this instance, what is happening? What other things? One other thing is I guess those are the highlights of what we want to cover in today's short time. Any questions, or Bob, I want you to add to, or Becky, your experience?
The first lady that was doing her offer with the whole room full of people, would it be unethical for me to go over and say nicely, you might want to go outside and do this or go to another place? Would that have been bad for me? 'Cause I would not.
I would have.
Yeah, not really.
She was disrupting my open house.
And it turns out, I don't know if she was, but really in some respects, is Greg still here?
Yeah.
Chose not to do it. It wasn't a disruption per se. She was asking some questions about HOA. It caught me by surprise because I never had it on my ears. But no, that would not be improper. But in some respects, that creates, Greg, kind of there was two neighbors. It turned out they're not bona fide. Oh, by the way, another thing that you as an agent do that we did here is we checked with Janice before the consideration of the seller's review of the two offers, is what is the status of the open house? Did you have any others that were interested that might be, because then we want to let them know, rather than dally, and now's an opportunity, the door's still open. And that, it turned out, wasn't the case. We had the two formal offers. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, that would be appropriate, but also it created a auction mentality in that in this case, two other walk-through office open house attendees got a sense of, hey, somebody's presented an offer if they're interested. And that's the reason why a buyer for only, which is a ninja selling kind of approach, I was Coach Club for years. And then what I learned, and I did, a top producing agent would have 3 open houses on a Sunday afternoon to create an auction mentality. What would it? I would have an advertised 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock open house, and something in a general price range and area. And when I'd ask for feedback, are you interested? Because I'd like to give feedback to the seller. Oh no, but this is the right price range and so forth. But the layout didn't work. I said, here, I'm going 30 minutes from now from 2:30 to 3:30. Open up this house. I'd have a flyer sheet with me. Oh yeah, the caravan. And what your hopes are to get two potential bidders who hear, hey, when one family gets in their car, did you hear that other family in there, that they were really expressing interest, good, strong buying signals? They said, we better hurry up and present an offer.
It's an emergency.
Is it? Yeah, and that's kind of what I thought maybe happened here, because it wasn't a disruption, but nothing wrong. To answer your question, go ahead and say, hey, would you mind go ahead and pick this outside?
But it's gonna turn other people off from buying if they know if it was in the right offer, they'll be like, you know, they're already.
Yeah, that has the other.
That's probably their intent.
Yeah.
Okay, you all as brokers, you get that kind of stuff, I would hope we never have an agent, I'm not perfect by no stretch of the imagination.
No,
But
no,
to get somebody like that, as you all as a broker, would you all call another broker and go, God, you gotta help this person? She needs help, she gonna get you in trouble, do y'all do that?
The EXP brokers will be located in Arizona.
Only one
broker
You know,
They're in the cloud.
They got one broker for the whole state. Now, how much help do you think that broker's gonna be for those agents?
Okay, let's say it's a Keller Williams, I'm just bringing up, no, I'm just bringing up another, you know,
Yeah, just, in answer to your question, Bob was already conveyed part answer to it. Close friend, another broker, Kathy Jones in this case. I've done it with, when Dan was the brokerage at Bob Parks, when listing agent of his seller agreed with my buyer under contract to submit a permit to confirm the advertised 4-bedroom. It was on the septic. And I went through the pros and cons. Well, we haven't seen a permit at this point, Mr. Buyer. Here's your options. Do you want to go ahead and have it as a condition and your right to withdraw and get your earnest money back in the event it does not have a permit for a 4-bedroom or more? It comes in less. And I said, well, you could incur costs. Or maybe there's a reason why they don't have enough good soil, that kind of stuff. And my buyer chose to have that as a contingency. The seller agreed. And during the time limit to furnish that permit, had elapsed. So I called, you talk about when Gina does the seminar, what's the role of a real estate agent working with seller or is to facilitate basically. So I called when the time had expired, asked this listing agent about Parks, hey, is there some reason why we haven't got it? It's just overlooked or something? He hesitated. And again, it seemed like 3 minutes. It was about 20 or 30 seconds. I said, is there a reason why you're hesitating? He said, yes. It's only permit for 3. I said, when did you know that? Here's this. I knew it before I listed it. And I said, sir, I'm not your broker. Please check with your own broker. And that's an unlawful practice. I don't want to see anybody fined and license revoked or whatever. But I said, that's a serious matter. Okay, well, when I hang up, I'm going to talk with my buyer to see what, if anything, they want to do, either go forward to close or they have the right to withdraw with the full return. And that's what they did. We found another house that closed. He assured me before hanging up that he was going to change that data. He didn't. Why I found it out 45 days later is I was doing the CMA for another property, and I noticed that property had closed. And I pulled up the full listing sheet. Guess what? He never did change it. If that buyer knew of the knowledge that the seller knew and the listing agent knew, and now what's the ramification to the new owner? Is there may be fewer buyers 5 years from now when they want to sell. The agent cannot advertise it for a 4-bedroom, it's a 3-bedroom. They try to get it expanded. If there's enough soil, hiring a plumber and all these other expenses, would you be ticked off if you were the new owner? Yeah, that's a possible, very likely lawsuit. Yeah, right.
I was gonna tell agents in here, if you have septic, get a copy of septic permit if all possible, because I've noticed 99% of the time when I have one, it's not permitted for the number of bedrooms the house actually is, and we list it as a 3, it's actually a 4-bedroom house. It never fails, if that house goes back on the market, that other agent, who was waiting for that buyer time, he puts it back on there as a 4. There was one in DeKalb County, the guy thought it was a 5-bedroom house, it was septic approved for 3. And then on the MLS, he had, the permit cannot be found. Bull. It was easy to find. I actually just went online, pulled it up on the website. There it is, 3-bedroom permit. I sent it to Real Tracks. Real Tracks changed it. He changed it back to a 5.
Oh my gosh.
I called him again. I said, you ain't believe this guy changed it back to a 5. And then we'll fine you if you change it back. But they will change it one time. Real Tracks will, but if you watch it, the agent will change it back.
Wow.
That's a common thing I'm seeing in these rural areas, especially with these outlying counties. It happens in Ruffin County too. But anytime you got septic, and just because they say a permit cannot be found, I would suggest you go and look. because they'll say it just so they won't have to disclose it.
Greg, what's that website?
Yeah, can you put it up there,
I've
Bob?
got it, just a minute, let's look on my computer, not running up there.
Come up here and put it.
And there is a TER documents available that you could send to the appropriate groundwater,
And
department.
you have to look really deep sometimes. I know one right now, this past week, it's a 3-bedroom permit. I know when it was put in, I know who installed it, I know who inspected it, who approved it, yet it's not on file. That's driving us, behind the demand that we still haven't found it. And I know it's done, I know it's done correctly, but I can't find the permit.
Going back to the original question, I think there are times when we do try to advise the broker of the agent. This is the time I did go, when I discovered the agent didn't do what he said, I thought the broker really would want to know that. He said, oh gosh, thank you so much. I don't know if he broker released that agent or not. But
It
it's
just needs
something,
more education.
yeah, but the bottom line is, we don't do that. I'm sure, Bob can speak for himself, of course, but I'm sure not every instance we come across, because there's so many times, what Bob was saying originally, there are some real estate firms, I don't know what their thinking is. You know, the body shops that anybody that's breathing, they want to have as an affiliate to get some potential income, they don't do like we're trying to do. Because everyone here is a reflection of each other. If you do, a lot of unethical, unlawful practices, we don't. We've got an atmosphere here. You're rest assured. We try our best. Are we perfect? The answer is nobody here is perfect. Nobody's named Jesus Christ on our roster. Seriously. So we try to minimize, and you stop and think about, why do we use a different company for E&O insurance? Because we haven't had to utilize E&O because of complaints and lawsuits to the extent that other companies do. So we get some, lower rates because we haven't had the complaints and lawsuits. You talk about the volume. If anyone, we should have a lot of complaints because we can't control. We're in a state that doesn't have legislature that prevents frivolous lawsuits, right? And you think with the top produced in 6 out of 7 years in North America, single office of exit, man, you think just the opposite, right? That just confirms that we are trying, and training is up there, and every one of you are conscientious, do our best. So, okay.
It's amazing what you see, like I said, Lucky's exactly right. The real estate business is presumed, or perceived, that is, to be pretty good right now. I know some of y'all are not doing the business you want to do. Some of you are doing, probably have more than you can handle. But right now, there's a lot of people getting in the real estate business. I'll give a little self-serving commercial here. Fortunately, you're with a company that wants you to know how to do the business correctly. We can't go out and find the sellers for you. We can't go out and find the buyers for you. We can try to tell you how to get them. But once you find them, you've got to know what to do. And the only way you're going to know what to do is to come to our training sessions and our sales meetings to help learn. And you're going to learn from other agents, not just from me and Lucky and Gina,
And Jeremy too.
and Jeremy. And, you've got a wealth of information up here at your disposal at any time. So we want you to feel free to call us anytime. But when I get an offer like this, it's just shocking to me because it tells me I know this is one of those virtual companies, basically, that they call it. And yeah, they got a higher commission split than we do. But this lady is receiving no help whatsoever from her company on how to do business. None, zero. And if she has a problem, she's gonna get the same help, right, Bob? She's gonna get the same help from nothing, What made, and I want to paraphrase these once again for you. I'm proud of her. At least she got the buyers' names on here. She didn't say whether they were husband or wife or not, but she did get their names on there. No sellers' names. What do we say in our contracts class about buyers, agents writing offers? You should be calling the listing agent and finding out things, right? I pass out a list of questions that you need to have in front of you. One of them is, according to the tax records of sellers of this property are Mr. and Mrs. John Smith. Is that correct? Then you know what to put in that blank. She didn't do that, obviously. Next thing, she didn't put anything in there about further described as, but that's not an unpardonable sin itself if the address is correct. I can't certify the address is correct. You didn't go to the page show. Nothing on there about garage door remotes. Do they stay? Do they not stay? I'm sure she would say, Well, yeah, I looked on the property condition disclosure and it said 2 garage door remotes, so I figured those 2 garage door remotes said, well, what controls? The contract. The seller, if they left them, that's fine. If they didn't leave but one, if they didn't leave any, it's within the rights, because she didn't address that. Grammatical errors, which we all can make, but under paragraph B, other items that remain with the property at no additional cost to the buyer, and she has typed in there, all appliance, including, no appliances, all appliance, including refrigerator.
So the ambiguity there is that,
Comma, which
there's no, is it a washer and dryers, an appliance, you get other things,
Yeah, what's that mean? All appliance, including refrigerator, comma, and lift ramp, and trampoline. All appliance, including refrigerator, comma, and lift ramp, and trampoline. I presume it has one of those,
it's a handicap
that goes up the stairwell for a handicapped person, Well, that's attached to the property, bolted in there pretty significantly. It would result in quite a bit of damage to the property. Could that be perceived as part of the real estate? But it wouldn't be bad to put it in here, So at least she got that in there.
If she had put a period after all appliance and then put lift ramp, you would know that separately.
Yeah. And trampoline, now trampoline, that's the first time I've seen trampoline included in one. Might be a real nice trampoline, I don't know. But most of the buyers will say, take that from trampoline.
That's your insurance system.
She has nothing in here, she did not fill out any of the stuff on leased items. So if they have a leased, water system or a security system or a propane tank or any of those kind of things like that might be leased, there's nothing addressing those. Of course, first contract ever I've seen without a purchase price. She did manage to tell us it was a conventional loan. She did manage to check the box indicating it is contingent upon appraisal, bless her heart. Lucky's already talked about under title extension, she has seller. Doesn't say anything, else, just seller. She did not bother to call the listing agent to find out who the sellers might want to close with. Another one of those seller questions, seller's agent questions that you can ask. So there's no information about that. Once again, not an unpardonable sin. It's not a strategic part of the contract form itself. It can actually be added later, but anywhere, anytime, but there's nothing on here. The other than the purchase price being on there, the $10,000 earnest money is just really amusing. When they net $1,000, you pay $10,000. This person is a winner.
Did you get the deal?
The 27th day of September is our closing day. 27th day of September. I checked my calendar just to make sure that wasn't on a Saturday or Sunday. I checked. It is on a Friday. I'll bet you a nickel that if that thing closes it'll be Friday afternoon, and they'll have problems if it's possession date or deed, with the thing. And it is possession with closing. So that means the seller has to be out at the time of closing. Here's the keys, give me my money. But on Friday afternoon, the seller's money's gonna be what? Wired to me. Is he gonna get it Friday afternoon? It's late Friday afternoon? No. So it's not gonna be officially closed until Monday. Just, you see the problems that we have here, the pitfalls that this deal would be facing. Lead-based paint does not apply, bless her heart. She can't get a purchase price, but she can put in there lead-based paint. 14-day inspection period, 14-day inspection period, cool, well, but no resolution period listed.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the couch potato, the couch agent.
To reiterate the home warranty thing, she has the home warranty company paying $510 and providing the seller with it. Where did nice home warranty come in? And the buyer's agent's gonna be the one that orders it. She wants that $60 or whatever it is from the, AHW.
She probably didn't disclose that either.
I'm sure she did. How silly of you, right? The offer was expiring the next day after they signed it. They signed it on August 18th, and it was going to expire at 5:00 p.m. on August 19th. I bet you also she didn't bother to ask the listing agent, can you get in touch with your sellers? A lot of people on vacation this time of year, and we've been in touch with them. And the other thing that just kind of the coup de grace here at the very end, she did get the signatures electronically, but the man signed over the woman's name, the woman signed over the man. I don't know how you do that electronically.
Okay, was this
Somehow.
real?
No, yes, it's real. I got it in.
The other one's real too? Yeah.
I got it in Sunday
not
afternoon,
making
Sunday
it up.
night.
She was very confident.
We've got,
This is real. You should have seen my face when I read
We
it.
all told her we're new, and she was like, "Oh yeah."
I'm new too, it was outside.
No, she's been doing
we've got William Cooper signing above Linda Cooper, and we got Linda Cooper signing above William Cooper. Does that make it illegal? No.
Well, can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the shout out, I'm a new agent, but I sold a house after what did I do?
You sold a new house.
That'll be on next week's.
I have a pending, but I had to write my first offer. And so I had to call Juanita because this would have been me.
Yes.
And so she walked me through.
contracts was?
No, they moved it. I had it on my calendar and now I can't come tomorrow. But she was a class and she was awesome.
It's not tomorrow.
No, it's tomorrow, or August 21st. I can't
No,
come.
no,
That's a different.
No, that's a different class.
Which contract?
That's when you have a contract
This is a
acceptance.
contract right.
September 5th.
Okay. Well, so anyway, this would have been me without this person right here.
I think Bob would have fired you.
And I submitted a wonderful contract, and she schooled a realtor that had been in the business 13 years, who was trying to press back on me. Oh, I know you're brand new, whatever. So we got to school her.
Y'all should have called Juanita with us when you got the
Well, we all, when we first got our license,
Yeah.
it is a scary thing to fill out. It's a lot scarier now than it was when I got my license, because the contracts were one page. It's a little easy to do, you know. This is 10 pages, 11 pages. Worth of legalese, you know. A lot of liabilities, a lot of stuff in there. So you've got to know what you're doing. And until we have our contract writing class on the 5th, I hope you get a dozen more contracts. But Juanita will be glad to help you. Any of us, Gina, me, Jeremy, Lucky, any of these experienced agents out here will be glad to sit down and help you with it. So feel free to ask.
Well, did either one of them get the deal? I hope not.
Actually, we're still working with one. What happens, we seize the opportunity. It's the seller's decision, right?
Right.
We go through pros and cons, and on the counter offer last night, there was an attempt to clarify. You know, we filled in that need to be filled in and clarify all this stuff. So it was so now the buyer is responding back. So, and what our advice is, treat every offer as serious potentially. But in this case, there was so much that had to be cleared up and modified. In this case, even what would help her is to ask the buyer to move up the closing date to accommodate the contract under the purchase contract for the seller. So that's something that's being deliberated. So the bottom line, yeah. However, our seller is very reluctant to even go with the other agent's offer, even if they did come back. They said, now do you want to get a rejection letter to let you know that your offer, the second offer, was presented? Not really. I said, after you explain, Lucky, they're going to go ahead and attempt to buy another house. If it doesn't work out, you've indicated, come back to us to see if it's still available, and then we could see about resurrecting things and try to work out a deal. So, in any market, you try to don't rationalize that there's no chance. How many of you in a different market in particular have had buyers that want to have you submit an offer $70,000 less than the asking price. Got this Grand Canyon Park, and that buyer is used to, in some states, their practices are these wide, multiple negotiation counteroffer steps. They're used to it. There's some buyers, frankly, we deal with that would never even consider not countering. They like to haggle. So then you just make sure you don't overlook that kind of a buyer that's used to that. Maybe make a good faith, modest move, Mr. Seller. It's your call. You don't have to, but in the interest of showing good faith and fair dealing with this buyer, make a very modest move so that they know that you're tight. And I've seen many instances where the buyer